Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. You are listening to the 264th episode of the podcast, and I appreciate it. Whether this is your first time or you've been here for a while, thank you for downloading and for listening. Today we're talking about three fly fishing lies. One of the things that I think about as I write for Casting Across, as I prepare podcast material for the podcast, are things that are out there in the culture, in the fly fishing culture, or maybe even in the general outdoors culture, and our perceptions about fly fishing and how we need to maybe do a better job of communicating things, both for people who are observing, but certainly for people who are participating. And as the stewards of fly fishing, those who fly fish, we have that opportunity, and that's helpful for ourselves, and it's helpful for folks who are kind of paying attention and who might want to get involved in fly fishing. And so if you're new, this stuff might be very helpful for you because you might be working through some of these issues. And if you've been fly fishing for a long time, these are things that you might have a slightly improper perception of, or you might kind of have this inconsistency where you know the right answer, but you also kind of toe the party line when it comes to some of these, what I would call lies or mistruths or half-truths when it comes to fly fishing. And here's the first one. The first one is that you can learn fly fishing by yourself. You can learn fly fishing by yourself. The DIY world is really exciting. I'm doing a lot of home renovations right now, and I'm happy that I can do about 95% of them either by myself or with somebody alongside me that's not a professional, but somebody who's just done that kind of project before. But even in that, it's not truly DIY. I'm doing it with someone, whether it be one of my kids holding up some cabinetry while I can attach to the wall, whether it be a friend coming over so that he can hold down the flooring while I nail it in, whether it be somebody that is a professional but is a friend who comes over and help me with some measurements and some calculations. Those things are not truly DIY. I am relying upon the expertise and simply the experience of others to help me in what I'm trying to do in my house. The same is true in fly fishing. So what do I really mean by the fact that you can't do fly fishing by yourself? I mean that you can't really succeed at fly fishing in any meaningful and timely manner without relying upon others in some way, shape, or form. So let's go to the extreme. The extreme example of learning how to fly fish is going to a school, which, whether it be Orvis or whether it be some lodge or whether it be your local Trout Unlimited chapter, they're going to offer something like that. And then when you get out on the water, you have a guide with you. In doing this, you are getting one perspective, but a good perspective, presumably good perspective on what fly fishing ought to be and what ought to look like. And that person, if they are a quality educator, is not only going to put you on fish, put you in the right position to make the right presentation of the fish, but they are going to be able to, in a way that you can understand, and if you can't, they can shift, articulate why they're doing what they're doing and why they want you to do what they want you to do. That is the best way to learn fly fishing. You might say, I learned by simply going out with my grandpa. Okay, great. That's a great way to learn. That is a derivation of what I just went over. And grandpa might have been an expert, an excellent communicator, but that isn't necessarily the case for people who are just showing somebody how to do something. So again, the polar positive extreme of learning how to fly fish comes with being taught by experts. You might say, I'm very wary of experts. I get that, but hopefully you see what I'm saying. Then you move down the line to grandpa showing you how to do it, to somebody at the fly shop just kind of walking you through things, to watching videos on YouTube or reading magazines and books. Those things are all helpful. But in doing that, you are potentially coming at it from a DIY perspective, but you are taking in that information in a way that is going to have a qualitative effect on your time on the water. And So this is important. When someone wants to take up fly fishing, you shouldn't say, "Oh, just get out there and try it." Or if you have just getting out there and trying it, and things don't seem like they've been working right for you, whether it be in something like casting mechanics, whether it be in fly selection, whether it be in hooking fish, landing fish, finding the right stream, then the clear and easy solution is to go to a resource. Again, that resource at the very bottom end might be this podcast. It might be the website. It might be one of the big fly fishing brands. It might be your local fly shop. It might be hiring a guide. And in doing so, you rapidly accelerate the learning curve such that you are able to find your way to the right solutions to the problems that you're facing so much quicker. So, all of that to say, it is a lie to say that you can figure out fly fishing on your own. I'm sure it's happened, and I'm sure that somebody out there can respond. They can accuse me. There's a podcast coming up in 5 weeks or so about fly fishing accusations of someone who said, "I went to the store, I asked the person behind the counter to give me what I need, and that's it." I mean, really, and you could make the argument that that person helped you, or you could say, "I walked into a fly shop for the first time. I kind of just felt my way through it from my time doing, conventional angling, and I grabbed stuff and I went out and I figured it out. I made cast this kind of fly and this kind of fly, and I figured out okay, that might be the case, but for the vast majority of anglers and those who have a really good time figuring out the minutia, they've been given some parameters by having other influences, whether they be casual acquaintances or whether they be formal educators, where they have brought them into a environment where they can succeed and succeed quicker. Because think there's something to be said for that. We all learn better, we all learn more, we all desire to achieve when we experience results, when we experience positive results. And so to have someone come alongside you who is a good angler but can also tell you something about why they're doing what they're doing, that is going to put you in a position where you can begin to emulate that much, much quicker. So that's the first lie, that you can figure out fly fishing on your own. You can, in the sense, with a big asterisk and caveat, that you are using the resources provided by others. And like I said, I think when you look at most anglers, particularly rewind a generation or two before the internet and the prevalence of online resources, the people that truly succeed are going to say, "I had this person in my life to show me what to do." That probably even trumps the hired professionals. As great as getting a guide is, and I would absolutely recommend it to anyone and everyone who has resources and interest, having somebody in their life that knows you, they can probably in a way that even an incredibly articulate and well-spoken guide who is a gifted communicator, they can probably get to the heart of the issues that you're trying to figure out faster than that person. So that's the first one, that you can figure out fly fishing on your own. The second lie has to do with fish, and it's this: trout are hard to catch. Trout are hard to catch. This is a common perception among folks who are starting out fly fishing and who are going to a trout stream and are trying to catch wild trout or maybe even stock trout that have become acclimated to the stream with a tiny little dry fly on the opening day of the season. Trout are hard to catch. I tried and tried. I cast thousands of times. I didn't even get a look. Well, you know what? Some trout are hard to catch. But I can tell you, after fishing for I don't know how many years, 30 plus years, bluegill can be hard to catch. I have seen bluegill that have refused everything that I have offered to them. So ought the conclusion be bluegill are hard to catch? No. I mean, even this summer, I came across just a ton of bluegill on a pond that gets no pressure in Virginia, and these things had lockjaw. It took so much work to get into these fish, and that became the challenge. It had nothing to do with the fact that this is the kind of fish that kids catch with a worm under a bobber. It had nothing to do with the fact that that there was big bass in this pond that I could be pursuing. It had to do with the fact that I wanted to catch this one particular type of fish. They weren't necessarily the best fighters. Certainly wasn't going to eat the things, but I wanted to catch that fish. It's the exact same situation when you talk about why people think that trout are hard to catch. There are plenty of trout that are easy to catch. There are times when you can't help but catching trout. You only have to look as far as the local stream where the folks throw worms and spinners and power bait and little crankbait and things like that, and they catch their limit, and they do so quickly. It's not that trout are necessarily hard to catch. It's that trying to catch trout where you're trying to catch them and how you're trying to catch them might be a little bit harder. We've all had the experience, or I'm being presumptuous there. We've probably had the experience where there's some streams that for some stretches they lock up and those fish aren't going to play ball. It just is what it is for that season, whether it be temperature swings, whether it be pressure, whether it be just where those fish are in their seasonal cycle. They are not going to want to pursue flies, particularly certain types of flies. They might want not to chase a big streamer. It's just not what they want to do, whether it be a small fish or a big fish. They might not want to look up. They have no interest in rising to flies. There could be mayflies or caddisflies dancing all over the surface, and they have no interest in it. However, something flips. All of a sudden, the terrestrials are out, and they're going to pursue ants. And maybe once they start rising to ants, they're going to start rising to other bugs. The temperature starts to drop, and they anticipate having a time when they need a little bit more nutrition, and so they're going to start chasing those streamers. So there's streams that are great one day and they're not great the next day. And this is really more the case when it comes to people saying trout are hard to catch on a fly rod. There's plenty of fish that are hard to catch on a fly rod. Bonefish are hard to catch on a fly rod. Rooster fish are hard to catch on a fly rod. There's been plenty of situations and circumstances where I know there's smallmouth bass all across a stretch of river, and they want nothing to do with a popper or a streamer or a nymph. They just are completely uninterested in everything that I am presenting to them, and they act just like trout. And I think that's a great example. River smallmouth and river trout behave remarkably similarly. This is why I always recommend trying nymphing for river smallmouth, because it is a major food source for them. And although it's not as glamorous or sexy as throwing a popper, it's going to produce as much, if not more. But there's times where river filled with smallmouth are just very, very difficult to diagnose and very difficult to get any production out of, whereas a trout stream is much more easier to do. So this is one of those misconceptions I think we have about fly fishing for trout. I think what this stems from is people wanting to wade into a river, put on like a size 12, Royal Coachman, and cast it upstream and drift it across, and just anticipate that, like in the insurance commercials, the trout are come jumping out of the water to get their fly. That's not necessarily how it's going to go. There's going to be a lot more work that goes into it. And that's why people turn to nymphing so often. That's why people turn to fishing streamers more often. It is a higher percentage yield more often than not. And so it is a lie to say that trout are hard to catch on a fly rod, because all fish can be hard to catch on a fly rod. And all trout can be hard to catch with spinning gear, with bait. But to remember that your bad experience on a river that you know had fish in it is a bad experience for one day. It might be indicative of your need to change something, and more often than not, that's the case. But it's also potentially an indication that it's a day when anyone and everyone is going to struggle on that stream. There's days when the power bait guys don't catch fish. You have to remember that in streams that you know have lots of fish in them. All right, so the first lie is that you can do it on your own. Second lie is that trout are hard to catch on a fly rod. The third one is going to kind of take a little bit of a turn, and just bear with me on this. It's this. You have to be liberal to support conservation. You have to be liberal to support conservation. So I am not one to shy away from talking about money or politics or religion on the podcast or in general. And so why stop now? So this is one of those things that I think is a misconception within fly fishing. It's that if you support conservation, that you inevitably support another host of issues that generally fall on that side of the aisle. Okay. Now, might there be some folks in fly fishing and some folks in the outdoors world that are one issue voters? And so, irrespective of what a candidate or a party also believes and endorses, they are going to vote the environment. That's probably true. But should it be that way? Ought to be that way? The answer is no. There's countless other things that are worth your time, energy, and effort. The environment matters. Cold water conservation matters, but it is only one thing. You might say, well, if the environment goes to pot, then all the other stuff doesn't matter. Okay, yes, I would say that's true, but that's making a lot of assumptions, and assumptions that are based on erroneous conclusions about, I think, truly what we can and can't do to the natural world. No one is plotting on, paving over the world. You might say, oh, this big corporations are. No, they're not, because you know what? They want a house with a backyard, and they want to enjoy their little piece of peace and quiet. C.S. Lewis wrote a book called That Hideous Strength. It's the third entry in the space trilogy, which he had two big fiction series. One was the Narnia series, 7 books, and then the other was the space trilogy, or the Ransom trilogy, 3 books. Excellent, underrated novels. But the third one, That Hideous Strength, there is a evil entity, and they are characterized as wanting to pave over a rural kind of hamlet in England, and replace the trees with metal trees, because they don't give off filthy things like leaves and bark and dirt and stuff like that. This is a caricature of a mindset that is denigrating the natural world. All that said, the folks that are doing that ultimately have what we would consider kind of a liberal approach to mankind, to humanity, eliminating the inherent value or dignity of humanity. What that illustrates, and what that demonstrates, and what I'm trying to communicate, is that it's not necessarily a right and left kind of issue. It's not necessarily everything good is on one side, everything bad is on the other side. That kind of dichotomy has been ramped up in political discourse and in popular discourse today, and it's easy to do because of the fact that everyone has a platform online. Hey, everybody can have a podcast, even me. But so what I'm getting back to the point here. Okay, we've talked about fictitious English cities and C.S. Lewis and outer space. Um, Getting back to the point, this means that you can be an ardent supporter of cold water conservation, of environmental causes, of various environmental groups and organizations, without necessarily buying into all the other things that candidate or that group necessarily supports. Now, this is where you need to be clear. If, going back to my Lewis example, if that group wants to protect the trout at the same time degrading the dignity of humanity, that would be a group I would want nothing part of. And hopefully, if you consider yourself on the left of the aisle, you would probably say the same thing. I mean, I make no bones about the fact that I'm relatively conservative, not necessarily aligning with Republican values, but conservative values. And I would hope that you would share that same perspective, that what matters more than just protecting fish is protecting fish and taking care of people. Okay, and doing so in a way that respects the dignity of all stages of life. So the third lie is that you have to be part of the entire picture of what people usually support when they support environmentalism. That's not the case. You need to vote your conscience. You need to vote what is right, but you also need to be consistent. If you support one thing over here, you need to support something else over there. If you think that it matters to protect trout, what other life are you protecting? What other lives? What other voiceless lives are you also trying to protect, or are you being inconsistent? Is this really a selfish motivation because the trout aren't necessarily ones that are going to be on your conscience at night when you go to bed? So this a little bit more off the beaten trail, as it were, from usual casting across flair. But a couple conversations I've had recently made this something that I want to include. And really, at the end of the day, what my desire is not for people to do exactly what I do, vote exactly how I vote, live the way I live, fish the way I fish. My desire is that you think through these things in a way that you don't say, well, I'm going to fish, but I'm not going to support these organizations because I don't like the other stuff that the people that support those organizations do. That may be a very valid reason to not support it. It's just shouldn't be necessarily a stopper for it. Similarly, I think you also shouldn't think, well, I'm going to support these because I have to. What else would I do? And if you say, you know what, there needs to be a third way, then be that pioneer. Be the one that blazes the trail. Be the one that takes up the cause for the right reason. As I've said countless times before, and as I alluded to even earlier in this podcast, my desire to support the created world is because I believe that we have been given the mandate to support the created world by a creator God. Not because it's inherently good on its own, but because it was created good. And there's a significant difference there that goes beyond the scope of this podcast. But that's why I do it. It has nothing to do with political ideology. It has nothing to do with guilt if I don't. It has nothing to do with the fact that if I have to take a fish and to protect a fish, it has to do with inherent value because of its created nature. Anyway, that got a little bit deeper, but isn't that fun? So 3 lies of fly fishing. The first one is that you can do it by yourself. The second one is that trout are hard to catch on a fly rod. And thirdly, that you have to be of a certain political ideology to support conversation or conversation. No, yeah, that would be great if there was every political party supported conversation. Thirdly, you have to be of a certain political ideology to support conservation. This week on Casting Across, 3 articles. The first one that came out was called 4 Fly Fishing Trip Questions. 4 fly fishing trip questions. So we have a lot of these downstream conversations about fly fishing trips. Where should I go? Should I get a guide? Things like that. What time of year should I go? Those are great questions. Those are worth talking about. But there's 4 things that I identify in this article that actually happen upstream of that. Things that have to do with maybe your skill and ability level. Things that have to do with budget. Things that have to do with timing. And how those questions will ultimately help you determine the questions about where you go if you hire a guide, how much time you spend, things like that. Risk reward is one of those questions that we might think about, but I think sometimes we jump to getting online, researching the Bahamas, researching Montana, without necessarily thinking, wait, what do I really want to get out of this? I mean, you might just say, I don't want to get fish, which is great. Go get fish. But might a long week, a couple hours away, be a better thing for you than a long weekend across the globe? So that's kind of the stuff that I talk about. Then Wednesday's article is called Giving Every Day. So this is being recorded the week after Thanksgiving. And as you are aware, we have all these fake holidays that come after Thanksgiving, really through the whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday being Giving Tuesday. So I'm not being disparaging to Giving Tuesday. In fact, I'm saying this is something that we shouldn't limit to Tuesday. Kind of, again, circling back to what I talked about in the podcast, your political ideology and the causes you support shouldn't be limited to, one time of the year. And so what I'm advocating is making routine benevolence and altruism part of your life, but certainly within your fly fishing interest. And so I highlight 4 organizations, and every one of them has to do with fly fishing and youth. 2 are explicitly fly fishing. One is very fishing focused, and one of them is general outdoors, but certainly has mixed fishing and fly fishing in it, and it's local to me up here in New England. So definitely check that out and check out those links. And I think for every one of those organizations that I mentioned, I have countless other articles on Casting Across talking about them, interviewing their founders, interviewing their participants. So they're definitely worth checking out. And that article, again, is called Giving Every Day. This week's recommendation is a recommendation I've made before, but I'm going to make it again now because they have sent out some really cool emails, and they've been doing this for a few months now, but the app is Trout Routes. So this is not a social media app. Okay, I just want to say that again because that's the big question that I know they get, and it's a question I've got when I've told people about it. It's not a place where you tell people where you're fishing. It's an information gathering app, not from you, but from the world, from various conservation organizations, from or state conservation organizations, from maps, from from user information that is provided on purpose so that there is access information, so that there is regulation information, so that there is stream flow data, things like that. So it's not where you're fishing, not how many or what kind of fish you're catching. It's information and data to provide to you so that you can go and fish better and fish more informed and find new places to fish. But what they've been doing is putting classes out. So a couple of the software packages for different things I use for work and for whatnot, they have seminars, webinars, if you will, that talk about how to use the platform. And the fact that Trout Routes is doing this, and they do this with various members of their team, people who are more focused on the software side, people who are more focused on the biology side, on the mapping side, and they walk you through how you can use these things. And as far as I can tell, it's free if you have the app. It's probably free if you don't have the app, to encourage you to get the app too, but they're definitely worth checking out. They're definitely worth looking at. It's a great value added thing to a great app already. And I'm pretty confident they still are running you get so many days free with the pro features of the app. But I would definitely encourage you to check it out. If you have everything already and you're looking for a gift in this holiday season, it's a great gift to give someone who fly fishes, or a great gift to ask for a year of Trout Routes. So I'll put a link to Trout Routes website on the show notes to this podcast page. And on their website, you can find information about the educational and user encouragement opportunities that you can find on their platform. Thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast app and rate the podcast in iTunes. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.